Well, maybe. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Centralist. I wasn't sure we was going live there for a minute. It was kind of being a little. So, but anyway, I know y'all know we use StreamYards these days. We still use Skype as well, but StreamYard for the most part works. Every now and then it gets a little weird and glitchy. I actually wrote into them about some weird stuff we had going on last week.
It's crap.
That's Mike seems to get jinxed with it for some reason or another. Not exactly sure. It just don't like New Yorkers is what it is. Even though isn't it out of New York? Oh no, it might be out from the West Coast. That
Probably
might
from
be why
Russia
you get.
or China.
It's probably from LA. That's why you're getting booted, man. You know them West Coasters don't like them East Coasters. You know the East Coasters don't like the West Coasters. So because of weird country.
I like the West Coast. It's on fire right now, but I like it.
You don't like the West Coast.
I like the barbecue too.
But, I know what you New Yorkers think about the West Coast. I've talked to many of y'all. Y'all are like, yeah, well, one of my good friends who's a politician in New York goes. He said, "Who wants to go to California? This is the best city in the world right here." I said, "We're not going to go there tonight." I said, "It used to be the best city in the world." I said, "I think it might be like 30th now." But
who? Where?
New York.
New York City?
Yeah, it's like 30th.
The best of what?
They said it was the best city in the world, and New York was the number one city in the world for a long time.
It's most known, recognizable, notorious. Right? If you say you're from New York, even if you're from the sticks upstate, they
still think, they still
they
generalize.
think you're from Manhattan Island. You know what I
mean? Well, it's just kind of funny when you hear people talk about different cities. And I remember when New Orleans became the number one destination in the United States for tourism. I was like, oh, that's great for the city. It sucks for the rest of us, mind you, but it's great for the city because you understand it from a local's point of view. We like to go party in a quarter. We don't be down there with a bunch of people from out of state.
Right.
We just want to go take our French Quarter over because there's enough coon asses and other things and couillons and stuff.
Well, back to the coon asses.
I'm just saying, there's enough of them to fill the French Quarter without having to have any. But I understand why they need the money and why they bring in a lot of things. Oh, wait, before we get into the real thing tonight, I got to bring this up. So I'm listening to this commercial on the way home, this news thing on the way home today, and they're talking about Illinois and how did y'all know people who listen to music smoke pot?
Oh, really? I don't.
So
especially Beethoven.
So I'm laughing at the moment. The guy says the pot stores in Illinois doing these music festivals, they are increased by 50%. I'm like, this is like really, they're acting like this is rocket science or something. I said, look, we could have told you I have to just walk into any concert anywhere in the United States, and the first thing that's going to hit you in the face is the smell of marijuana, even though smoking's illegal. Yeah, I know.
Even 30, 40 years ago, 50 years ago.
So I'm not exactly sure why this is such a big thing. And whoever sent me that, no, we're not. I'm not against marijuana. That's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying that Illinois spent a lot of money on this research to find out that concerts increase the purchase of marijuana in their state. 50% for locals and 16% from out-of-staters. That's pretty good. I guess it's a big thing. Maybe they weren't selling enough pot or something. I'm not sure. You get a big tax draw from marijuana, so I'm not exactly sure why they are so interested in that. But I guess, I told everybody this in the beginning. I said, as marijuana spreads across the country legally, because it's expensive when you're traveling, they want like $80, $100 a quart and stuff. Well, that's coming down because now in places like this is Colorado and California for you. So, you can grow your own marijuana there up to 14 or 15 plants, and you can trade it for other things or other marijuana. Now, you can't sell it, can't use cash, but you can get, like, if you get enough pounds, you can go trade it for a car. It's just like crypto money. So, or you give it to your friend. He might give you a bottle of this, a bottle of that, or this, that, or the other thing. So that's all legal.
Right.
So
let me stop you right there. All right, Illinois. This is why they want it, right? It includes a 7% wholesale tax on marijuana, a retail excise tax of 15%, 20%, or 25%, depending on the product's THC level, and the state's 6.25% sales tax on top of that.
So what is that? 35%?
They made $175 million last year off of marijuana in Illinois.
Well, I know it's big money, and it can be big money, but the point is now that Colorado's having this problem now. So many people there are growing it. They're just trading each other for different kinds of pots.
Right.
So they've been having to drop the price. And then I found out, talking to a friend of mine, up there, it's cheaper to buy it off the street. He said, Joe, you can get an ounce up here for $80. He said, you can't, a quarter cost you at the dispensary. And I'm like, what? He said, oh, yeah, man. He said, you can get a damn pound for like $300 now when they used to be like 3,000.
You can't generalize though, because it depends on the quality, man. Because there's
Oh,
cheap
yeah.
there's cheap whiskey out there,
Yeah,
and there's
cheap
great
whiskey.
expensive whiskey out there. So there's cheap cigars, there's like expensive cigars. So it really comes down to the quality. But if you're in that world of quality, I mean, as it stands
Oh, what happened?
in New York, you'll probably pay $200 an ounce for that type of thing. But if you're on the street buying smaller amounts, of course they're gonna get it. But New York's now legalized, but it's not for sale anywhere, which is weird. So it's almost like they're encouraging the illegal trafficking to come into New York from other places, right?
That's how Nevada was when it first happened. They legalized it, but nobody had any. They were actually calling to other states to see if they could buy it.
They call it, "You got any weed?"
No,
and
and
you got any
which
weed?
is illegal,
No.
by the way. You can't bring marijuana across state lines. You can't even bring alcohol across state lines. And most people don't know that. This guy was so funny a couple of years ago. He said, what do you mean you can't bring alcohol across state lines? I said, it's called bootleg. And he said, no.
Yeah.
He said, I said, dude, cigarettes and alcohol have a stamp on them. It's illegal to carry them across state lines. So if a cop really wants to, if he stops you in your car and he looks at your pack of cigarettes and says it's got like a Texas stamp on it and you're in, he can seize them. He can seize your car if he wants to.
Yeah, isn't that crazy?
Yeah, but we bring them over the border to Canada only so much.
Because y'all got different rules, but here it's considered bootlegging. Now most cops are not going to do you anything because they're not going to really care. But if you piss him off and he can't find a reason, oh, well, look at this bottle of Jack Daniels. It actually came from Kentucky. Look at that Kentucky stamp. Where you at, boy? You in Utah. Guess where you going to? The Hokey Pokey.
When I was in 1990, when I was going back, I went out to Arizona to check out ASU, and then I was going back to Long Island. I was driving back. I went through Tennessee, and they had a Green Label Jack Daniels, which they didn't sell on Long Island at the time. So I picked up 3 bottles just to give it to my friends and that type of thing. Keep one for myself,
Yeah.
It's smoother, but it used to be like even Coors beer. It was a Colorado thing, but they didn't sell it east of the Mississippi. And if
Right.
the Smokey and the Bandit, the movie was based around that. Like they were bootlegging beer, and it seems so silly now, doesn't it? Like since it's everywhere, and it all became just it's money. It's money, right? It's about money.
There's so many ridiculous laws on the books, though, depending on where you live, that most people don't even realize they still exist. But I guess if you were a real, let's call them a stickler for radio privileges here, I guess. But I guess they could pull them out if they wanted. But some of them are ridiculous, some of these laws.
Yeah. There's a lot of laws. A lot of people say they make a lot of laws so they can put you in jail easily. That's simple. And sometimes you don't even know you're breaking the law from state to state. I mean, think about the way laws are. New York, or like handgun laws in New York. If you're not even allowed to put your finger on an empty handgun in New York, even if you're in a store, and it's a felony just to put your finger on it. But you go over the state to Pennsylvania, or you go over to Vermont or Massachusetts, you can buy a handgun, keep it in your home and that type, or you can get a permit. And then there's also a full carry permit, but there's open carry. There's options, but in New York, no. But it's the highest crime with illegal handguns, aside from of course, California and Illinois. But think about the laws they make and who are they hurting?
Well, a good guy, some ex-host and I were talking a couple of weeks ago, and he's like, yeah, I know what y'all know. It's it's like 2 incarnations. They were before Stephanie put it in perspective, but we were just.
I thought you were talking about Stephanie's ghost, man. I thought it was getting a little paranormal. She came to you.
I've been trying to get the host. I've been trying to get the host on Paranormal Talk to do a seance.
For Stephanie?
Yeah, for Stephanie.
I'll do
trust
it.
Me.
Be like,
Joe. You will know. You will know if it's Stephanie. Yes, you will know if it's her. Trust me on this. God, I know, ladies and gentlemen, this got nothing to do with the news. But this is a friend of ours who passed, and trust me, if we do a seance and she shows up, you will know. I will definitely know shit will be flying all over my studio.
You know that.
I just see what's happening already. But anyway,
wakened me from my slumber.
Yes, you probably would too.
Joe, I was asleep. You woke me up. What do you want?
But it's a shame too. I mean, the way she passed, and she was young. I mean, she was only I think she wasn't even 50 yet. She was still in her 40s. And, that was just rough. Had to be rough on her parents. Now the crazy sister gets to come over and take over everything, too, because her sister was, I'm not going to go to every move. I can only go by what she said, though. So, you know how hatred is between sisters sometimes.
Well, it was alcohol. I mean, her main problem was alcohol.
Yeah, it definitely was. It was. She just, she's a smart chick, but for some reason she just couldn't beat the alcohol.
Stephanie, she was awesome. I have to say, she really was. And I just didn't understand the direction that she went in, but there was nothing much to say about it. I mean,
There was no way. There was no way. She once she got her mind set on something, there's reason wasn't even any reason to argue with her about. So I was just surprised she, went so young. That's all. I was like,
she
wow.
pushed all of us away.
She
So I
pushed
mean,
everybody, right? Not just us. There's a lot of other friends that knew her, and she said she just didn't want to. She just wanted to be by herself. I was like, well, when some people want to be like
well,
that, they
she was
want to
like
be like.
sexually harassing me all the time, man. I put a complaint in and all that, but it didn't do any good.
No, no.
Seriously, she'd call me 4 o'clock in the morning and be like, "Hey, you sexy beast, why don't you come down and let's get together. Let's have Chinese food." I'm like, I'll live 5 hours away, and it's 4 o'clock in the morning. Even though you can get Chinese food there at 4 o'clock in the morning, yes, but it would have been
Yeah,
9 o'clock.
same with some
And
places you can.
just wasn't my type. I think I mentioned to you, Joe. My type is tall, thin, and blonde, and you laugh. You're like, "Oh, she's the exact opposite of all that."
Well, she was. I mean, she was an Italian girl, big boob, black hair, big
Well,
eyes.
she was very domineering, and I can't stand that. I can't. I was with that for too long. That was like from
Actually,
the frying
if
pan
y'all
to the
ever want
fire.
firsthand knowledge of this, you can go find Chris George, not Christina George, but Chris George. He used to be a psychic in the show. They were together for a long time, and I just asked him.
I guess he
I
didn't see
fell
that
for
one
the boy.
coming.
I fell for the boy. I really did. I fell for the boy. I gotta say, I fell for the boy. But anyway, getting back to the news. So we're gonna start out
Are
tonight.
you
If we got,
sure he was a
yeah.
psychic?
Well, I'm not even gonna go there
Get
either.
those premonitions.
Well, he probably knew, but
Anything.
he
That
probably knew,
dark
but there was
cloud comes
other
over, it gets all
reasons.
dark out there
Yeah.
today. Like, that no omens,
Fortunately for him, I think there was other reasons. But anyway,
no
enough about all
chickens
that.
crossing the road
So
outside. No.
I got a question. I brought this up yesterday. I've been talking about this for about 3 weeks now. Now that the variant's gotten worse, it makes it even more fun to talk about. But so I'm talking to a friend of mine. Right, he goes, a good friend of mine too. I said he wants to go. He wants to go to Europe. I said, well, go over. He said, but I can't get back in the country. I said, well,
So,
that's funny. I said, you can go to Canada. You can't get back in the country either. So the point is all the borders are closed. The southern border is actually closed unless you're an illegal immigrant, an unvaccinated illegal immigrant.
you can run right
Then
across.
yep, then you walk on. They'll give you a ride to a hotel, give you some money.
I give you
I'm
two
like,
grand a
what?
month.
I'm like, what? So out of for shits and giggles today, when I got home because I was tired, and I popped in. I wanted to look and see where immigrants have been being deposited around the state. Way all over. I mean, all over. Pretty much where you see the biggest part of the red, which is from the middle of California all the way across the country, all the way from the middle of the country down, basically, is where they would deposit. Now, I'm not saying that every immigrant had COVID, but since Lambda showed up in Louisiana today, and we know it came from Peru, and the first case was from, guess what? An illegal immigrant. So it speaks volume to what's going on in the country. Here's Joe Biden up there, cracker Joe going, well, you don't need to get vaccinated. Well, no, actually, if you would keep the borders closed, they wouldn't have to get vaccinated. We'd have been past this. So I'm not saying that people wouldn't have got some of these variants, but we both know Lambda and Delta did not form in the United States. They were brought into this country. One came from way to hell over in India, and
Oh yeah.
one came from Peru. So the only way they could have got into this country is through the southern border, which means
Right.
it had to be illegal immigrants that brought it
Well,
into our
Delta
country.
probably came through either from India directly with all the people from the United States going back and forth, or the UK, And then you can look at the other strains like Lambda, which came from Peru, which definitely came over the border, obviously. I mean,
Oh,
and then
obviously.
when people were dropping dead in the street from Lambda, and the doctors, I'm part of a doctors group in Israel, even though I'm not a doctor, but I kind of browbeat myself in there. I think they think I am, but I'm not saying anything. But they deemed that Lambda was going to be the most terrifying, dangerous variant of all of them. And in Israel, most people are vaccinated, so they're seeing these breakthrough infections with the vaccine. The whole thing with the vaccine is becoming very weird because the Congress won't approve a booster shot, so they don't want to pay for it, right? With all their talk when Trump was in there, they'll do this, they'll do that. Now they're definitely, how it was going to happen. They got in, now they're turning the screw, and they really don't care about people at all, obviously. But it's just very weird. And the Pfizer, this doctors group, said that the Pfizer is about 32% effective against the Delta variant, and Moderna holds pretty strong at 72 to 95. And then you have Johnson Johnson more like 55 to 65 in that area. But the Lambda variant has slippery proteins. So, like, or it's like with Delta, if you have the vaccine, the viral load is so heavy, it just overwhelms your system. It's like a flood. It's like you could have the best dam in the world, but if there's a flood coming, it ain't going to do shit, right? I mean, you're done. And but if Lambda, if that's true, then people are going to be really like, it's going to come down to your immune system, and hopefully, when something hits you, I mean, Laura, you're a nurse. When something hits your immune system, it pops, and it's sort of.
I'm going to abstain from this discussion because I have different views about this.
Well, I work in the field, so I mean, my information comes firsthand.
I didn't say it was wrong. I just said I have different views.
I'm just saying that. This is going to sweep the world, and right now we're in a very dangerous situation. And everybody's been, I mean, Canada's been under lockdown, and your numbers are going up. United States, they thought they had it beat, but right now, I mean, I'm at a hotel where there's 2 weddings happening, and people walking around with no masks. They're congregating, they're hanging out, arm in arm, and whatever. But at the same time, when you see the numbers go up, this is how it happens, right? And many more people are getting sick now from the Delta variant than the original COVID, and the strains that followed that. So it's going to be a bad game within the next few months. Yeah. That's for sure.
Well, it's going to be interesting because, like, when you look at the United States, our borders with India are closed. There's no travel at all. Not even families are allowed to travel right now. So part of it was on us, part of it was on them. We were getting ready to open back up. Both countries
were opened, and then they stopped testing also, which is a problem, So I mean, they were able to come
India
over.
was open. The United States wasn't.
Yeah, if they tested out, no, if they can go back and forth from India to the U.S., that was going on for several months now, But and the same thing for Europe. I mean, travel was.
They're saying both.
You had to test. They were supposed to test before they leave, right? Yeah. The problem is you can go positive from 3 to 14 days, so you can have it for a few days and not test positive. That's a huge problem.
It's all that strange. It's a very strange thing that this country was pretty much whipped, right? And all of a sudden we started putting illegals all across our country, and all of a sudden it went crazy.
It's the perfect storm, But also what's interesting information? The deer population. About 50% of the white-tailed deer population in the U.S. in 49 states that they populate. Only one they don't is Alaska. About 50% of them have COVID, and they weren't getting sick. But how did they get it? And I mean, all these different states. I mean, that's very strange. And then on top of that, why aren't they getting sick? I mean, so there's a lot of weird stuff happening, man.
Yeah,
they're testing different animals. But I think it's much bigger than the CDC or the WHO even understands. And I think it was a designed bug. It's a situation where it was manufactured. It was made to do this. This isn't natural, man. So that's my take on
it. People are going back and forth on whether it's natural, not natural.
You can't trust him, man. You can't trust that Fauci. You saw his emails and how he lied all along. They have no problem lying, these guys. Well, it didn't come from the Wuhan lab. And what do you know? Certainly, he knew it did. Certainly, he knew it did.
So they're saying now, Boris is saying the Delta's run its course in the UK with very little difference from the original virus whatsoever. He's not saying that it wasn't more effective; it just ran its course. Boris Yeltsin. They officially. Well, UK's open, and they're like, no, but the UK. I said this the other day, and it's kind of the same thing for Canada, except Canada's way more spread out. When one of these gets loose, I mean, in a country as tightly packed as it would be like just the island of New York, and there was nothing else around it, and somebody got the virus. Yeah, more than likely, a good chunk of them are going to get it, and that's what happened in New York City, and that's what happened in the UK. There was 30, 40 million people there, and it ran through real quick. And when the Delta came in, it just went rampant, but it went through. They're saying in under 3 weeks, it swept across their country, which is true for them. but we're a much
No,
bigger,
it's
much more
not.
spread out
I'm
country.
looking at numbers right now, and the numbers just popped again in the last couple of days. 28,000, 29,000 confirmed cases. And
And then they got to deal with how many people have said they're vaccinated there now.
yeah,
So, like
right,
in Louisiana, we're number one. Even if they were a country, they would be the number one country in the world. But yet, 3.6 million people in Louisiana have been vaccinated. Well, there's only 4.5 million people in the whole freaking state. So you got to kind of wonder what's going on here. Some they're facts, and it's what's going on. So I've been noticing this a lot lately, over the last since Biden took over. Facts are not matching facts. So when you listen to people talk about the Delta and how it's spreading, it's not matching how it would come in contact with people or how they would be in. So
right.
you'll find like remote areas with large and then you go to a big city and there's none, and you go to another big city and there's a shitload, and it's like the Gulf South. So if you live down here between Jacksonville and Dallas, the interstate connects everybody, and everybody's always traveling in between. Well, Mississippi was talking today. They're actually very low. Alabama's very low. Georgia's kind of moving around. Louisiana is through the ceiling, and Florida's through the ceiling. So on both sides of this corridor, it's rocking and rolling, but everything in the middle is not. So you got to kind of wonder why. I mean, they're traveling through here. They're stopping here and eating. They're staying at the hotels. They're gambling at the casinos. So there hasn't, but I mean, they're in the casinos.
I mean, yeah, but it really depends. It's more about the minutes of exposure you're with somebody, but now
that makes it even different because
Delta
no
is so much more infectious. So the original COVID, the rate of transmission was 1 to 2 to 3 people. So one person has it, they get 2 to 3 people sick. Delta, they're saying 1 to 8 to 9, which is a huge difference. So if they're saying it's as infectious as chickenpox, smallpox, and Ebola, you're talking about something that's unbelievably infectious. But they're saying it's aerosolized, so it's up in the air, right? And it floats around. They said it could float around for hours. So
I don't know how anything can float around for hours.
It does. Dust does. Whatever particles.
No. Nothing does. Everything settles, and that's just gravity makes everything settle. See,
it depends on the room, the heat, the area.
Yeah, but it doesn't matter. Nothing's going to stay up in the air for more than a couple of hours, if that long. Especially if it's in like an air-conditioned building, so it cools. It's going to shrink. It's going to go down to the ground. Now, if it was really, 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 really hot, it might keep it up in the air for a little while, like outside, but that's not going to help because it's going to sweep it away.
These particles are lighter than smoke.
But still, it don't matter. Smoke settles down too. I've never seen a particle that won't settle down unless it's in space. It's going to go down, and nothing really takes that long to settle down. And I guarantee you could take Delta and put it in squirt gun and squirt in air, and I guarantee in less than an hour it'd be on the ground. Unless it was under some kind of really heated conditions that could keep it afloat, but that would probably kill it. So that's why I said a lot of things don't match up on this.
Well, this is the deal. It doesn't matter. Politics doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what they say. It doesn't matter what even the doctors say. The only thing that matters is you and your health, and you got to look out for yourself. So, yeah, you wear the mask, and you do your hands, and you stay away from large groups of people. And, yeah, don't go to casinos. That's the worst. And don't go to airports, man. You don't want to be where people are congregating. It's too soon.
You don't want to be in airplanes, that's for sure.
You want to get
you don't want to be anywhere that's recycled air. I mean,
this initial plume, you want to get past that. And then Lambda's on its heels. So my fear is that Delta is going to smash people's immune systems, and then Lambda's going to come in and not respond to any vaccine or nothing, and just go for it. Just go for it. And that's
so far, like the cases, 2 of the cases in Louisiana are breakthrough cases with the Lambda, but the vaccine seemed to keep it off from making any serious. Matter of fact, the 2 cases they were talking about, the guy said they barely felt anything. Matter of fact, a friend of mine's got the Delta right now in Florida, and he said it was not near as well as the regular COVID was. He said he got sicker faster. He said, but the symptoms aren't even near as bad. I said, yeah, because you had COVID before, doofus. That's why. He refuses to take the shot. This is his second time getting sick from this. And he refuses. And the first time was rough on him, but he said no rougher than the flu.
You got the shot, I got the shot, and you had COVID.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So, be careful as I can tell you, people. I'm not going to tell you to go out and get a shot, even though I think right now with Delta you should. That's your business. That's your choice.
Advice to people.
It's going to have Zeta or Zeta. I can tell you that right now.
Oh yeah, I ain't even arguing with that at all. I'm sure we'll get once these 2 get under control. There'll be Zeta that comes out.
What's about survival?
All the names till at least the end of December. I feel like.
Yeah.
This is going to go on for 12 years. It'll probably have a half-life will hit that half-life in another 4 years, 4.5 years. So it's going to take time, man. These things they're not over because you say it is.
Yeah,
so
but
we'll see what
that's the
happens.
other problem. That's still the other problem that they don't like talking about. Out of the 640,000 people that supposedly died of COVID, only less than 50,000 didn't have a
610,000 in the U.S.
Yeah, but out of that,
but we're number one.
But only 50,000 actually died from COVID. All the rest died from stage 4 cancer.
We're number one if you believe China and their bullcrap numbers.
Yeah, well, China's and India and Brazil are fast catching up, so it don't really matter.
India, they said they understated it by tenfold. So whatever the numbers are, you can do times 10, and that's pretty much what you're looking at.
I heard India talking about a new pill today. I heard the UK talking about it for weeks now.
UK's had 6 pills that they're trying out.
Yeah.
So if you get COVID, you take the pill, and then it helps you.
What is that stuff? If you get the flu in the first 3 days, they got you something they can give you, and you get over it.
Whiskey is called.
Thermoflu, is that what it was?
It's called whiskey.
No,
you know who invented
Tamiflu? Not going to do it.
You know who had it was Donald Rumsfeld's company when he was a pharmaceutical guy that had Tamiflu. And then after he got in, they bought millions and millions of doses, the government did, when they had the swine flu. Remember the swine flu was going around? So you had to buy Tamiflu for the swine flu. Millions of doses they bought from his company. And to the day he died, he still owned the rights to Tamiflu. That's how it works. That's why we don't make any money, because you got to be you got to be the government, and then boom, it'll be like Al Gore. He left office with $500,000, and now he's got hundreds of millions of dollars. How does that happen?
Did you guys see what's happened in Alberta and what's happened in Ireland?
What's going on in Ireland? I had nothing about Ireland.
Well,
we talk about Canada every day.
Red Deer, Alberta, that wrote the Canadian government, the health minister actually for Edmonton or for Alberta, asking for proof of the pandemic, asking them to show him the lab results. Look it up yourself. You'll see it. It's even in the mainstream media. And Ireland's done the same thing. Interesting. Very, very interesting.
What? So you're saying you don't believe in COVID-19?
No, I didn't say that. Nope. I think that I will agree with you that I do believe that all hell is going to break loose in September, October. Maybe not for the same reasons you do, but I do believe it will. Yes.
Well, then you have people.
Absolutely.
People aren't putting their masks back on either, no matter what anybody says. Mm-hmm. There's a group out there of the people who don't believe in vaccinations, who don't believe that. I get that a lot. I don't believe in it. I'm like, it's not a belief. We have tangible evidence that these things are there. A belief is like Jesus. A belief is some kind of religion, man. This is different. But it's funny they use that word a lot.
But I can understand that from a point, because when you look at any of the COVIDs, they're not killing people unless they're already way old.
I know people who have died that didn't have pre-existing conditions, and they're in their 40s.
But it's less than 0.01%.
Doesn't matter if you die.
No, it does, because the flu kills more than 0.01%.
Statistics mean nothing. So I don't want the flu either.
But what I'm saying is, you have other things out there that kill us just as readily, that actually kill us faster than this does. Because
if you have something that comes along and your immune system can't respond and there's no vaccine, then it's up to chance.
I got an easy question. So if you've got like lung cancer or diabetes or something, and you get pneumonia, what's your chance of survival? Less than 30%. Yeah. So it's the same thing with COVID. So giving COVID credit for 650,000 deaths in our country for people we already know are going to probably going to die anyway, that's bullshit. That's not a true count on how many people actually died from the disease.
You know what? The numbers are fudged.
Very quietly adjusted their numbers.
They weren't able even to count because people were dying so fast. And also, hospital workers, they were demoralized, and there's so much stuff that's happening. A lot of doctors died. A lot of nurses died. I mean, it affected everything. It's unprecedented. Nobody was ready for it, and they should have been, because that's what the CDC is supposed to be doing, right? Be ready for a pandemic.
Well, because Fauci was paying to get the cure, and they never sent it to him.
Because he's a politician. I remember Renfield.
Well,
he was the head of the CDC. Renfield was the head of the CDC, right? He went on March, a little after St. Patty's Day. It was March 23rd, I think it was. He said, The COVID will never affect the United States of America. And already it was in Washington State. I mean, in those nursing homes. He said the U.S. has nothing to worry about. Yeah. Yeah. In a few months, we were shut down. But there's also politicians who love the power. We have to be very careful of that because they love when that woman from Michigan, you can't go fishing, you can't do this, you can't do that. Stuff that defied reason. You can't go fishing by yourself in a boat. Really? Come on, man.
See, so this is what Israel said about the Delta virus. They said it's not as deadly as the original strain. It's way more infectious, but they were losing 5 people a day when COVID came out, and currently they're losing 1 a day under Delta, which more people, by the way, have Delta.
You're focused on death. You need to focus on organs damage and your lung damage.
But that's anything. Any pneumonia can give you that. To
there
me,
are people that walk away with COVID with 30-40% lung reduction.
And there are people that get the flu that walk away with that. So,
but these are bigger numbers, man. It's a different animal.
They're not on that kind of stuff. No, they're not.
Different animal. Different animal. You're talking about the giraffe. I'm talking about the elephant.
You're still under 2% of people that are having those problems. It's like people getting vaccinated and having problems. That's still under 2%.
The original COVID had a 13% case fatality rate until it got around the world and filtered through people, and it went down to about 1.8%. But now you have these other variants. So I feel like it's going to be a 1-2 punch. You got the Delta, you got the Lambda. There's also 4 more that are following that. So it's not going to stop.
We'll see how it goes because they're saying that the Delta is not going to be as deadly as the.
Yeah, it's not going to stop.
Well, it's not. It's just like the flu's not going to stop.
Delta's not, but the Lambda is. So if the Delta messes up your immune system, if you get it, the Lambda slides in. Lambda is as deadly. People in Peru were dropping dead after getting it for 24 hours, man. That's scary stuff right there.
Yeah, but that's not what the CDC is saying. They're saying something entirely different.
I wouldn't listen to them.
But we got to go by what we're told by the CDC.
I listen to the Mayo Clinic. I listen to Johns Hopkins. These people are in the know.
CDC works with them, so.
And there's so much liability attached to it. They never say because they feel like they're going to get sued. You know what I mean? But the government says whatever they want. They lie all day long.
I mean, let's be honest. Sooner or later, somebody's going to go after Funucci. It's just a matter of time.
Come on, you don't think the CDC has patents on these things?
CDC got a lot of things. CDC was paying to have this stuff checked into.
It's biological warfare.
To make it more.
We paid the Chinese to do that.
But this is the problem with this. Biological warfare, any type of study of any kind of biological warfare in the world is illegal. The UN made it illegal like 30 years ago. No country can do this. So if China's actually doing this in a lab.
Since when?
It's been outlawed. For a long
Since
time.
when?
You do know
it was George Bush Jr. that allowed people to start working on bird flu and that type of thing to weaponize it again. Yeah, I was granting about it when he did that. So and then you think Russia?
But it never was. It was never weaponized because it went to court and they lost an argument. That's what I'm trying to explain to you. The UN made this illegal. Every country that's a member of the UN signed this charter. And they agreed there would be no more research on biological chemical warfare weapons at all. So if China's actually doing this, they could lose their veto vote at the UN. Actually, could lose their membership at the UN. So could the United States if we were paying for it. So there's actually consequences to these actions. And you know what? The UN doesn't really like China right now. They don't really like the United States either. So it'd be an out for them. They could just say, well, you know what? Y'all didn't want to agree what it was supposed to be. And the UN swears. Joe Biden was just talking about this 3 weeks ago. There is no biological chemical warfare weapons being tested in this country, period. Obama was asked the same question. He said the same answer. So when it comes right down to, you can't be doing it. Now, if they want to go in and take them away from them, that's another thing. I mean, everybody's going to do it no matter what. I agree with that, Michael, but they're not supposed to be doing it. They're not supposed to be developing any kind of biological weapons because the end of it is, in the end run, all of us can develop weapons. I mean, we could weaponize the smallpox, and everybody would be dead in less than a week. And everybody would be dead, except for the people who had the vaccination.
Anthrax.
Yeah, anthrax. There's lots of them. There's lots of
kill the whole city in 24 hours.
Think of it like this. Yeah, COVID's all fun and dandy, but there are lots of things far worse than COVID in the world. Most of which we've supposedly wiped out, but I guarantee you some lab somewhere has got a vial of it. I bet you Justin Trudeau's up there and got some smallpox in a little vial just waiting to let it loose on the people who don't love him anymore.
I'm not even going.
Laura Lee, you don't say nothing bad about him. I don't want you getting.
I'm not even touching it.
I don't want you getting smallpox up there or something. Well, I don't know. I got a smallpox shot. So
I'm probably going to end up in.
Well, you probably got a smallpox shot too, so you probably okay.
there, Del and I'll probably end up in an internment camp. That'll probably happen, or we'll have to get out.
Well, I remember when there was some kind of little breakout in Africa, and America got worried because everyone under the age of 30 has never been vaccinated for smallpox. Only people 30 and over have been.
I have been vaccinated.
I got mine too.
I have.
But you know, what happens if they wipe out the breeding population on the planet? Well, that's screwy. I hate to see women giving birth at 50. That's not going to be any fun. And who wants to be a dad in their 50s? Lord have mercy.
I would have had probably 20 million kids if I could have, but
there's so much. It's just unfortunately there's so much nastiness in our world. And you know, when you've seen Fucci's email about, oh well, let's see if we can develop this into something more deadly. Why? Fucci, why would you even want that? Why weren't we working on vaccinations or cures or something to wipe out the disease? You know, I asked a friend of mine who worked for Johnson & Johnson for a long time. I said, why don't y'all develop a cure for the cold? He said, oh, we could have cured the cold years ago. He said, we just don't want to. He said, there's no money in cures, Joe. One time you're done, it's over with. He said, we don't want that. He said, he said the thing that they give you in the first 3 days, we didn't even like that idea, but yeah, it was out there, so we had to go with it. You know, so that kind of bites. But it is great for people. I never know when I got the flu until like 5 or 6 days, so it never matters to me. But some people who figure it out real quick, go get the stuff, get the pill, the drink, whatever, and man, it's gone in like 2 days. It's the best way to go, guys. It's not necessarily a cure, but it speeds it up, I guess is the best way to say it. And all that stuff makes a difference. I mean, in this research, so this is another thing that bothers me about COVID. It's not just the United States working on cures. You have 191 countries working on cures. And this is the best we can come up with. I got issues with this. I'm not believing this is the best we can come. I'm not even believing this is the best we can come up with the United States. You know, I'm just kind of wondering, you know, isn't there something else going on? And it was funny because when I was driving home today, the police, the ex-police chief of New Orleans, or actually of Jefferson Parish, was on. He's got a radio show there, and he had a doctor on with him, and they got to talking back and forth about the Delta, the Lambda, and you know, and he said, I'm a little worried about the Lambda. He said the Delta death rate's not as high. He said it's more miserable flu-like thing. He said, but it's not as high. He said with vaccination, there's been no deaths here. Now it's not worldwide now, people, because there have been some, but here he was talking about it, and he said, I'm a little bit more worried about the Lambda if it becomes a dominant thing. He said, but for some reason, it's having a hard time taking in because of Delta. So now this only counts when you have Delta, by the way. So if you currently got Delta, for some reason, the Lambda has a hard time attaching itself to the virus because there's already a current virus there. Now, if you haven't had it or you're over it, you can still get the Lambda, people. And so we don't have enough stats in our country to tell you how deadly it is, but Michael's right. In Peru.
And keep in mind that in the Petri dish, it's totally different what happens inside people.
That's true, too.
In their environment.
Well, that's was what causes the mutations. That's what people don't realize about when you hear about these different mutations. That happened in somebody's body, unless we're breeding it in a petri dish somewhere. But supposedly that happened in somebody's body, and we expect mutations. I mean, you know, flus mutate. That's why most of the time the flu vaccine is only good for 20 to 40% of the people that take it, because you know we never know flu's coming. That's the problem. And this is another thing that bothers me. Since COVID's been around, there has been no flu for 2 years.
Thank you very much.
For 2 years. You know that is an impossibility. That is absolutely an impossibility.
People have been inside wearing masks and washing their hands. They were in groups of other people. It's a whole different situation.
Flu's just as contagious as just about anything.
But people weren't around to get it. People weren't around. Businesses were closed. Offices were closed. Schools were closed.
How do you get COVID, but you don't get the flu? The flu existed before COVID. How did it?
They shut everything down, and we started to mitigate the spread. They shut everything down, and we started to mitigate the spread. Don't you know anything? We shut everything down. They started to mitigate the spread. Why do you think the numbers went down? Do you think that if we didn't shut stuff down, the numbers would have went down automatically? Give me a break.
But there's no flu cases. If there's COVID cases, there should be flu cases. I'm with Laura Lee on this. If you got COVID cases, you should have just many flu cases.
The COVID cases started dying down. Now, all of a sudden, they reopened everything, and now here we are with a new variant and spreading around. What don't you understand about that?
Michael, it's better than that. The first year, when we didn't even know COVID existed, there were hardly no flu cases at all. And all of a sudden, COVID came out of China, and there's no flu case in the United States from January to March. I'm like, no, there's some shit going on here. You can't get away from that. I mean, there was no way people weren't getting the flu. They were still not locked down yet. They were still running around. But somehow or another, we went through 2 flu seasons with virtually no flu.
I agree. I've been saying that.
There's some bullshit going on there. I hate to say it, but there's some bullshit going on there. I can understand why there would have been less cases this year, but there should have still been cases because people like me were going to Home Depot and places like that. We were going in people's apartments. First responders were doing the same thing. Doctors and nurses were doing the same thing. So it just 2 and 2 is not making 4 here. It's making 3.
Because people weren't around each other. People weren't circulating.
So how did COVID get through? COVID got through, but the flu didn't.
COVID got through, and we started to mitigate the spread. And the spread, I'll say it one last time so you can understand. We shut everything down. We mitigated the spread. It's that simple. Makes no sense. It makes perfect sense. It makes no sense to you. It makes no sense to you because you're not out there in the field. You're not working in the field. You don't know anything.
But it's still.
You know nothing about it. You know nothing about it. Only from your right-wing websites, which are all fake. They're all fake. They're all phony. All your right-wing websites are all fake. Same thing for the extreme left. All fake, all phony, man.
Because you work
so go ahead and quote these people.
New York, you know everything there is. You always know everything.
I work in the field.
That's why I kept quiet because you know what?
I work in the field.
Still, you haven't answered me how we went 2 seasons without the flu. You still ain't answered how we went 2 seasons without the flu, especially the first season when COVID wasn't even known yet. So, and even the CDC asked this the other day, by the way. They're kind of a little curious, too, why all of a sudden there was no flu cases, even though still 160 million people in America were still moving around. Maybe 160 million were at home, but there was still 160 million in the field. The military was in full force. They were still traveling around. People, all the maintenance people, all the electricians, plumbers, all of them were still working. All the policemen were still working. All the hospital people were still working. Half the country was still moving around, and nobody got the flu.
Who was moving around?
Everybody was. Half the country was moving around.
Mm-hmm. And
I went to work every day.
You mean in the summertime last year when they were?
I'm talking about the whole thing, the whole 2 years we've been doing this. I haven't stopped. I've been at work every day. And I got COVID in January. And I was just wondering, because I got COVID before we knew that was happening. That's why I thought I had the flu. But when I was talking to my doctor about it, she said, we've virtually seen no flu this year at all. And this is 4 months before COVID even reached the United States. So it's not making sense.
What doesn't make sense if people stayed in? I mean, they were
staying in.
That's what I'm
saying, Mike. They weren't staying in. They didn't even know about it yet.
I drove across the country in September and October, and people weren't around. The roads were dead.
When did we shut down?
The roads were dead. The hotels were
We shut
closed.
the country down in March.
The hotels were dead.
Yeah, but we shut the country down in March. COVID came out in October. It was in our country in January. We know that for a fact. But yet there was no flu, not in China, not in the United States, not in Europe, nowhere. And no one knew anything about COVID getting there. Still no flu cases. This is a big thing. Now, who's looking at this? The CDC's looking at this because it doesn't make sense. Either COVID was eating the flu or maybe it was mutating the flu or something else. But they all agree there should have been way more flu cases than there were. They already had 2 vaccines out. For a matter of fact, I got my vaccine shot in January, or actually in February, for the flu. And that doctor was like, well, we're just not seeing any flu cases. And nobody had masks on. Nobody admitted yet. Trump hadn't even agreed that there was anything going on in our country yet. He waited till March. So there's just something here that doesn't add up. Just like the amount of deaths, there's something here that just doesn't add up. You know, I learned a long time ago when 2 and 2 is not making 4, there's a problem. So, you know, the second year, it was a lot harder to get the flu because half the country was at home and they were wearing masks and they were washing their hands. And by then, most of the people who were out in the field knew enough to wash their hands when they were coming and going. So that did kind of cut the flu down. But it still didn't make any sense why they didn't have it before that. I mean, we had a flu season with no flu from November till March when COVID kicked in. But between those months, there was no flu in this country. There was none in China. There was none in Europe. It just doesn't make sense. I mean, I can understand the second year because everything was locked down and we were closed. But the first year, no. And then the second year, there should have been some flu cases, even if we were locked down, because there was COVID cases. So, you know, if you can catch COVID, you can catch the flu. So there's just something here that just doesn't.
Through October 1st, 2019 through April 4th, 2020, let's see, 24,000 flu deaths just in that short time. 39 million illnesses, 410
Not in this
hospitalized,
country.
410,000. Yeah, this is
Not in
United
this
States.
country. Now I'm looking at the CD stats. That's not what it says on the CD website.
That's where I am right now.
Well, that's not what I'm reading. It's saying virtually there was no flu. They were actually saying that the flu was down 88%. 88%. That's come on, Michael. 88% in the middle of flu season. I got a problem with that. I just got a problem with that. It's just one of them things that I got issues with. It's not that I don't think I couldn't tell you what kind of conspiracy it would be because I don't know if it is or if it isn't. Maybe it was just because maybe the COVID was eating the flu, or maybe it took over the flu. But there's got to be a reason why. I know both organizations are looking into it. They both have grants looking into this. So if they think it's like that and we think it's like that, there was something went on here. I don't know. Some people say, well, maybe it was the vaccine you got for COVID kept off the flu. Well, we know that's not true. And we didn't have though. And I mean, really, we didn't know about COVID really until March is when we started locking shit down. And even some of the states still even resisted to then until April or May. So really, you had 7 months in there where you should have had flu. And remember, flu vaccination only lasts for 6 months.
So that's what they're saying. The same thing about COVID, man. They see it starts to dissipate after 4 to 6 months.
Well, they said that about the Johnson & Johnson. According to Moderna, it never goes away. It's a whole different kind of thing.
All of them said the same thing about, this isn't these companies. This is these other groups that are testing and doing their thing.
Well, I can only tell you what the drug companies are saying. Now, Johnson's been honest from the day one. They said you're only going to get 55 to 65% protection, and you're looking at something that's going to last 9 months to a year at best. They said that from day one. So they're not pushing it off. But Pfizer and Moderna said that's not true for theirs, because there's a CRISPR technologies, and they're not a vaccine. There's not a COVID or vaccine in there. Well, there's nothing to die.
Pfizer's not doing well against COVID, and especially against this variant. So.
Yeah, some of the numbers dropped. Some of them seem pretty high in the beginning, and some of them, Moderna seems to be holding its own all the time. So
32% is pretty bad. That's just about a third of people.
Yeah, that's hard. But see, that's a typical flu vaccination. Is about what they run out at.
But this is the problem with my math. How do you know? All right, let's say you get the vaccine. You don't know if you're ever going to get COVID. All right, but now they're saying that everyone's going to get the Delta. That it's so transmissible, everyone will get it. But still, there's a lot of like weird numbers and things that are hard to count. But when you work in the field and you see it for real, and you know exactly what's happening, and you see people getting sick, especially when they're getting sick at a higher rate than before. You know what's happening. You know what's happening. It's like the soldiers who are on the ground. You know what's going on.
So, by the way, if y'all are listening to us tonight, and we can't really bring anybody in because we're on stream, but send me your emails if you've had the Delta virus, you're going through it. If anybody that's got the Lambda, look, if you can send in a letter or something. Because the Delta, I've been reading a lot of stuff on. I'm not as worried about it as when they originally came out. They were blowing a lot more smoke. Now they're saying the death rates are lower. So whatever it is, it just seems to be going around pretty fast. I've seen flus like that are very, very infective, and some of them don't seem to be infective.
Unfortunately, this is hurting people's organs, man. I mean, it's a different ball game,
Well, the flu causes pneumonia, and pneummonia screws up people's organs, and that's what's happening.
Going after your kidneys, your liver,
but that's what happens in COVID. COVID causes pneumonia. That's a lot of times. Yeah. When you get pneumonia, you're going to have problems with your organs.
Fills your lungs full of fluid, man.
But that's what I'm saying. This isn't anything any different than we've dealt with in the past.
I've seen pictures of people's lungs look like someone took a razor blade and cut them up.
Yeah, I've seen some nasty things over the years from people from different diseases they've gotten. So the problem for me is when I look at the COVID and I look at the stats, okay, 610,000, right? So cancer is usually around 600 to 650,000. So all of a sudden, whoa, cancer dropped down by like 200,000. Kidneys dropped down by 150,000. Well, that's because they're COVID deaths being counted as COVID when they're not actually deaths from COVID. They're actually from these diseases these people already had.
So, Joe, what's Joe Biden doing for us? That's what I want to know.
Nothing.
When they criticized Trump last year nonstop on COVID, they had all these plans how they were going to. I mean, he was the one. I had an argument earlier, and I said, you have vaccines because of Trump. I mean,
It's true. No,
and
that's true. He
and
got
he had
all
no
this stuff
problem paying
rolling,
for it. But now Congress will not approve a booster shot. They said
and they're not going to.
that these companies say that we can use one. Congress said we're not going to approve it because they don't want to pay for it. That's very interesting, man.
Well, it is, and what it might happen is Canada might develop the third shot and give it to us like we gave it to them, or some other country might give them to us like we gave other countries the thing. So I don't know how this is going to work out. And maybe
Canada's like a welfare state these days, man. I don't know what's going on.
But still, they're developing their own viruses. I mean, it's like the J&J shot. It depends what state you're in. You can get it. Some states you can't. Some countries they'll give it to. Some countries they won't.
Joe, do you really want Crown Royal? Really?
I say, look, Crown Royal works.
No to Crown Royal.
It's but what's that, Carolyn? Actually, anybody can get the Delta virus. It don't matter if you've been vaccinated or not. You might not get as sick from it because you've been vaccinated, but still. And I know people now, at least 5 people now who have gotten it that shucked it off like it was nothing. So it really depends on your state of health, just like it did with the other COVID. If you're sickly and you've got issues, it's going to kick your ass. If you don't, you'll probably kick it off pretty easy. And if you're under the age of 46, you're going to kick it off pretty easy. There are always exceptions.
Don't say that, man. This is going after children. Yeah, and there's no
vaccine. Like I said, there's always an exception for the rules, but you're not going to see a big death rate amongst
the first COVID wasn't going after kids. This one is. So, and you can expect that because it's adapting and overcoming. It's growing. Mm-hmm. It's doing what it was designed to do. Right.
And it might be, but still, but that's a bad thing for COVID. If it goes after kids, more than likely the cure is going to come from one of those kids. Or it's going to mutate into something that's not deadly anymore, like most viruses do.
Best case scenario, that it mutates into something that's null and void, man.
Yeah. About 95% of all these viruses mutate into something non-deadly within 5 years. It's just that's just facts of how it works. Doesn't mean COVID will do it. There's always an exception to the rule, like we were talking about earlier. So there's always exceptions to the rules, but for the most part, they burn their own cells out. That's why a lot of times we'll see a flu for 3 or 4 years and then it just kind of fades away. When's the last time anybody seen the Hong Kong flu? Now the bird flu is still around, but it's not near like it was. So a lot of these just kind of peter out after a while.
Well, they evolve and change.
Yeah, they
sometimes do. They grow a tail, and sometimes they have this or that happens. I mean, it depends on the rate of transmission and how it gets around. You got to like look at Ebola. Right? Ebola is pretty deadly. It's a hemorrhagic fever, right? You bleed out of your eyes and all that, but it's the droplets, right? Yeah. Same thing for all these other things, man.
So, Mikey, herd immunity is going in the UK, in Israel, in the smaller countries. They're shooting for herd immunity. Florida is shooting for herd immunity. California and Texas are shooting.
There's no herd immunity with a vaccine. You got to understand.
They're not talking about the vaccine. They're talking about the people getting sick.
Like in Vermont, they announced they're at herd immunity because they're well vaccinated. I'm like,
that's not herd immunity.
One thing
herd immunity is when everybody gets the virus and it's no longer obtainable. The virus won't get them anymore.
Right.
So that's herd immunity. Now that's what
you need about 80% of the public to experience.
And see, Florida's got 64% vaccinated now and 32% sick. So they've achieved herd immunity. They will have when these other 32%.
Yeah, their hospitals are overrun in some places.
So they're gonna get over it. And that's a partial truth, by the way. I checked into that today. So our government was going, I heard it, the hospital's overrun. Not exactly true.
Mayo Clinic.
They're still doing elective surgeries in all these states. So if you're doing elective surgeries, your hospitals are not overrun.
Mayo Clinic said the COVID filled up their beds. They have 309 registered beds. So
yeah, well,
I mean that's in Jacksonville. That's just one little tiny place in Jacksonville.
Yeah, but hospitals have more. Like the hospitals here, like you've got Tulane LSU on Tulane. This thing is 6 blocks long, 16 stories high. There's 5,000 or 6,000 beds in there. East Jefferson has 2,300 beds. I mean, these are big hospitals with lots of beds, and they're not going to fill up like that. And they're not filling up down here like that. We're not even worried about respirators right now. So, I got to watch because the media has a tendency to tint this and tilt this a little bit because, the crazier it is, the more viewers you're going to have.
I don't listen to the media.
Well, you can't listen to the media. No, you can't. And right now you can get media. You can get COVID numbers from about seven different groups. All reputable groups. It just depends what you think, who's more reputable than who. And that's a personal thing, ladies and gentlemen. And who said that? The WHO? I don't trust the WHO as far as I can throw. I don't trust the CDC as far as I can throw. It's not that I think they're out to get us or to wipe us out or anything like that. It's just, this is a good thing for y'all. So over the years, the CDC has made a lot of vaccinations given you a lot of vaccinations, said these are good. They've given you a lot of other drugs that they said are good. Do you know how many of those drugs that are now illegal have been taken off the market? Because, see, exactly. Hundreds of them. So you can't trust anything they give you.
Those organizations. Look at the funding. Follow the money.
So what happens is they get them in for 4 or 5 years and they find out, they don't work or they cause too many side effects, so they got to get rid of them. This is a common thing. And we are the guinea pigs, by the way. We, the people, just like with COVID, we are the guinea pigs. That's why the FDA will not give any of these drugs complete go ahead. Because
you were in the Navy, man. I mean, how many shots did you get?
Oh, you don't.
From beginning to end.
First day, 27 shots. All air guns, 27. Third week, 17 more. When I went to go overseas, 26 more.
Joe, I'm surprised you're not growing horns.
Now, wait. It says clearly in our thing we signed. I didn't read it at the time, but I found that later on. It says clearly, if they feel the need to experiment on you with drugs, they can. And there's nothing you can do about it.
Government property.
Yes, that's exactly the truth.
GI, government issue, man.
And that's exactly the truth. So it was so weird too. We were watching this guy get a shot when they ran out of stuff and it was just air. The air bubble went up his shoulder, went up this thing, and then it puffed out on his head. They thought they killed this poor bastard. You can
kill, of course you put air bubbles in someone's veins or something.
It's like getting the bins, man. I was like, come on, this dude. How this dude didn't die. Even the doctor was like, dude, I don't know how you're still alive. He said if it would have took it right and went through one of your arteries, man, you'd have been dead right then and there.
And they wouldn't have cared either.
They wouldn't have cared. They'd have gave his wife or his kid or his mother $10,000-$15,000.
They give him a flag and they say sorry.
But he got $2.2 million from the Navy for that. He also got a thing saying he couldn't talk about it, but we were all there, so we could talk about it. And I still remember my commander. I said, when you give me $2 million, I'll shut up. He was like, all right, you made a point. And then he just left me alone after that. But that's the military people.
I don't think you can shut up for $2 million, Joe. I don't think that you.
No, not that I probably couldn't have. But the thing of it is there's
I see you go to court.
Yeah. No, actually, I can. I haven't broken my security agreement yet, so it's anything that puts you in jail, I can be quiet.
That story about a UFO landing on an aircraft carrier, you don't see that on CNN.
You ain't gonna see that on CNN. But I was outside of my. Matter of fact,
I want evidence, man.
I sent a copy of my disclosure agreement to the local media because they wanted to know why I waited to talk about it. And I said, "This is why I waited." And they're like, "Wow, you really did?" God damn, you got a high clearance. And then they come back with, the FBI really does check you. I said, yeah, every 4 years. And they checked me out. I said, more than that, they monitor my shows. I said, I know they're listening and I know what not to talk about and what to talk about. I know there's some things. What kicks me, though, what really cracks me up about this. So it's been almost 40 years since I served in the Navy, 36 whatever years, right? What cracks me up is stuff that we worked on back then is still classified today. Certain things about the jets, certain types of shielding, certain types of electronics, certain types of chips. I got one time I got hit because of EMP shield, and then one time I got hit because I mentioned the 6-core processor on the air, which at the time of 6-core processors didn't even exist. And I got sanctioned for both of those, but it wasn't anything bad. It was just like, shh, bad boy. You can't talk about that stuff. And then they did kind of spank me when I mentioned the speed of the Nimitz on Stephen Bissett's show. Because, they have it listed at 1 speed, but it's actually 20 knots faster than what it's listed. And so I got kind of spanked for that, too. But
we're going to be asked to know any of it unless there's someone like you that has clearance. They're not going to tell me.
And, I do hear a lot of stuff because I still have a lot of friends in the military. I have a lot of friends in politics these days. And I made a lot of friends over the years in the other fields. But in the end, I don't trust any of them. And some of them are good friends of mine. I still don't trust. So put this in perspective. I'm talking with a good doctor friend of mine and another doctor. She when it came over from Africa, and I'm like, well, what do y'all think about COVID? What do you really think? She said, I think COVID's highly effective and it's going to read through the country, and anybody who's not in good shape, it's going to kill, which is exactly what it did. But she said, because they were talking about when can we reach herd immunity? He said individual states might be able to achieve it, but the whole country, that's going to be much harder. There's 360 million of us, give or take. And getting herd immunity for that many people, that's like China saying they were trying to achieve herd immunity, but yet Delta, come to find out, what is it? All of Wuhan, all 11 million people in Wuhan are going to be tested right now. All 11 million have to be tested in Wuhan. So, if they tested in Wuhan, they tested in other provinces because they had opened up their provinces. So that just tells us that it's much more prominent in China. It's just Xi Jinping keeps a tight lid on it so we don't hear about it. On the other hand, the Russians talk about it. They talk about it's kicking their ass.
I read
And
this publication. It's actually a conglomerate called Tencent, and they do a hospital reporting in China. And then a lot of stuff they'll come out with things in the middle of our night, which is our day. You know what I mean? Whatever. And then China can't filter it out, and then those are the true numbers. And they're saying they're locking cities down all over China.
They are.
And
They are
doing mass testing and blah 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 blah. So,
fortunately, we got a lot of people in China that listen to us, so we get a lot of people. Well, it's like when they sent me the big file of all the stuff that was going on in China. We had 4 people in Wuhan. That's how when I think it was Laura Lee told me something about them disintegrating. So I called somebody, and they went out and took pictures. They sent us videos and pictures from, what was it, 14 different provinces, 10 different cities. And so he went out. They went out and they went to all these places they could get to, and they took videos and pictures, and you could see them. Cities, nobody was on the streets, and they had these big fog machines, fog and everything. But when we got to Wuhan, we got front row pictures of the hotel collapse, which I still have. And then there was 40 incinerators there.
40 electric incinerators go running for a long time. They ordered over 50,000 urns. Yeah. 50,000. But they say they only had 5,000 deaths.
And there were people who reported seeing slight movement in some of the bags, which means that people were almost dead, but weren't quite dead yet. But that's how they knew these people weren't going to recover.
Look at India, man. They were just burning thousands and thousands.
And it's the
how
same
do you know that stuff
India
doesn't get up in the smoke in there?
And some viruses can survive extreme heat. So I don't know what can survive 2,000 degrees Fahrenheit, but maybe
prions.
So
things like that. It's not really. I mean, but you know how things burn, and sometimes things. I mean, 2,000 degrees in India, they were just throwing gas on them outside and wood, and so it's only going to get as hot as that temperature there, right?
Yeah, 500 to 600 degrees more than likely.
Dude, it's nasty. I was watching a guy on the news, and he was standing there trying to broadcast, and all these bodies. He's like, you wouldn't believe how bad it smells, and all.
I can imagine. So the crematoriums down here, they burn at 2,400 degrees. And even then,
have to burn bone.
Yeah, even then, there are still little chunks and pieces. But I tell you what, I didn't realize. The first time I ever picked up a dead person, it weighed like 50 pounds. I was like, you got to be kidding me, man. I didn't realize, I guess because I've always seen urns and stuff. So when you get an urn, you're only getting part of the family member. You're not getting all of it.
That's what I was talking about when you were saying a dead person. A dead person's like, there's a reason why there's a term dead weight, but you're talking about the after stuff.
Yeah, so I remember my mom asked me to go pick up my stepfather. And I walked in and grabbed the thing. I was like, this thing is heavy. And it was in a big box. It was like, big ass box. I was like, what the hell? So she said, where are you going to go put him? I said, don't, I'll put him somewhere he'll enjoy himself. So there's a nude beach not far from where I live. So I went and spread him all over the beach, which, by the way, it is illegal to dump ashes and bodies on the beaches. But I did it anyway. So it was crazy. I figured he'd be happy.
Hazardous waste.
Yeah. So I figured he'd be happy there watching the naked women walk around as he gets washed in and out of the beach. So, and then, my mom cracked up when I told her. And but I remember when I went and brought my aunt, she wanted to be buried on this particular, well, not buried, but her ashes spread on this particular thing. I was like, Jesus, Joe, you only weighed 100 pounds when you're alive. You're weighing 50 pounds when you're dead. I mean, Jerry, but anyway, it's just, it's one of them things you just kind of weird out about. Actually, Chris, we're going to get into that right now since you brought it up. So this is why we were talking about COVID in the first place. So right now, there's at least 22 states that have had refugees bust and dropped off. At least 22 states.
Oh, yeah.
Now, I get numbers from anywhere from 1,000 to 10,000 per state. Easy.
Texas and California are the number one, number two, but they spread out. They go to New York. They work the fields, man. So that's anywhere and anywhere, right?
Well, what they're doing out in Texas right now is they're just loading them on buses and sending them to hotels in other states because the governor of Texas said you're not welcome here anymore, and we don't care what Joe Biden says.
Can't forget about gang members.
So, well, that's interesting you brought that up. So they were showing people crossing the border in daytime, young women and girls and a couple of young guys. They were showing people who was crossing at the nighttime. These guys were 30, 40. They looked badass. They were coming in our country, for 1,000 a night. So we don't know where they're going or what they're even up to. We may have another Twin Towers on our hands because we just don't know what's coming in. I'm still confused about this. So
we never knew what was coming.
Biden gets the country locked down 6 months ago. So we're just locked down. But yet we're going to let in, what is it now, almost 1 million illegal immigrants, unvaccinated and untested. Yeah. I mean, what the fuck is going on here? So he can say whatever he wants to say. Oh, it's the unvaccinated that are getting sick. Yeah, well, you just sent the disease all over our country. Of
There's
course,
no rules anymore. Right? I mean, the rules, as long as it's in their favor, that's the only time they
yeah.
make rules.
So anyway, there's a group suing saying, look, if you wouldn't have let the illegals in, Delta variant still wouldn't be in our country. Lambda probably wouldn't be either. The Delta might have made it anyway because we did sneak in a couple of people. I don't know when exactly Delta started on India, but there was a 3 or 4 month period where you could go back and forth as long as you tested clean.
But you mitigate it and you slow the spread, But when so many people come in, you can't do that.
No, you can't.
It's all
so
over.
they just let it spread across our country.
Wait till Sturgis
and
happens next week. 2.5 million people going to Sturgis, coming and going.
Yeah, so yeah, I know. But you seen that big biker rally going on. I mean, it's
they did Sturgis last year though too.
Yeah, and they spread the virus. A lot of them came down with COVID.
So I was listening to a friend of mine who's got it. I was talking to him today. One of my own is actually, and he's like, "Man, it ain't that bad. I'm doing okay. I've been having it for about 6 days now." I said, "Well, you got another 10 to go," and he's feeling better. He said, he just didn't feel that bad. And again, if you're really, really healthy, you got a good chance of it not bothering you at all. You just never know. It's a crapshoot, people. It really is, and unless you know you've got something wrong with you. And by the way, whoever typed that on my messenger, yes, high blood pressure does count as a negative against you.
Oh yeah.
So if you got out of control now, if you're on pills and it's all under control, you're less likely to get really bad from it.
Diabetes,
diabetes, another one. There's so many
failure,
things that if you have that you were trying to keep from it killing you, COVID's going to go ahead and kill you. So stay away from it. Get vaccinated. Do something.
It's not going to help you. That's for sure.
So do something about it. That's all I can tell you. And as far as Joe Biden, people, I heard somebody today calling for impeachment for 2 reasons. One, for letting all these illegals in our country. And wait, that's not even the worst part. Last I heard, first it was 200,000 going to Canada. Now it's 400,000 going to Canada.
I didn't even say anything. But
so we're just gonna send them there, and they're gonna do just like they did here. And they're just gonna disperse them across Canada, and you're gonna see another bloom because these people are being untested and they have no testing.
That's lots.
What bothers me is if we're going to arrest them and put them in there, we might as well give them a shot and let them go. Give them a shot. If we're going to let them go, give them a shot. That's all I'm saying. If you're going to let them go, give them a shot. Give them a shot. Give them a shot.
Mandatory vaccine for all.
I mean, we're doing and that's another thing. We already making mandatory vaccines for our people.
Corporations are. Isn't that funny?
No, corporations.
It's territory to go there, whether they're illegal aliens or not, to start putting mandatory vaccines in.
Yeah, so de Blasio has mandatory vaccinations for anybody who wants to go in any buildings there or any businesses. But yet, unless you're an illegal, in case y'all didn't notice, if you live in New York and you're an illegal alien, you do not have to get vaccinated. But if you're anybody else,
the numbers in Canada were down. Now they're going up again. But 963 cases August 6th today. So
yeah, it's a little crazy, and it's going to stay crazy for.
It's not as bad as you would think.
And then of course, like we were just talking about, we're 4 months out of the flu season again. So we're going to see how it goes this year.
I am predicting that numbers are going through the roof in September and October for completely different reasons. You guys are, but I will agree with you. Numbers are going to be through the roof. I think deaths are going to be through the roof.
I'm going to stay with my friend on his tropical island where there is no COVID, by the way. None at all. There's never been any, hasn't been any.
Believe it or not, Greenland only had a handful of cases, man. No deaths. Let's go to Greenland.
They're probably banning everybody from there. Stay away, people. Well, that's that hardy
Iceland also, there's a few places.
It's more that Viking hardy blood, man,
Well, is this the apocalypse? I mean, on the show the other night, we talked about the apocalypse. Is this a apocalypse, or is this brought on by mankind? Is it brought on? Is it being fostered? I mean, there's so many unanswered questions. That's the problem. The most important thing is to make sure that you're healthy. That's all. And you stay away because you know what? The government could care less if you die. So that's as simple as that.
They don't care.
Nope. They lose tax money. They lose a vote. But although the Democrats, you're still allowed to vote Democrat after you die. I understand.
That's what I hear too. I hear that too.
And we have an election coming up, guys. So
what's with Trudeau? You know what, man? I don't understand how that guy's in office after the whole thing with the commercial, the industry.
I don't know. He only had lots to do with the Dominion voting machines and what I predicted in September, and we'll have when he's having the election, and we'll have to have mail-in ballots probably. Geez. I wonder if we'll have Biden 2.0.
Look at Andrew Cuomo, right? He's got sexual harassment against him. They said he broke federal law and state law, right? And he just started raising money to run again for governor. He's not stepping down. He's not going anywhere.
Yeah, because isn't he been cleared? I thought he's cleared, and the other guy, Newsom, I thought was cleared. I thought I read something about that.
Gary Newsom?
Not Newsom, Gavin. Isn't it Gavin? What's his last name? The guy in California, the governor.
Yeah, Newsom, that's his name.
That's what I thought his last name was. Yeah, both of them are cleared afterwards.
Well, his state now, he's at 50-50 now. 50% of his state wants him gone. So he's not going to get reelected. So I don't know what's going to happen to him.
Cuomo's not going anywhere. The Democrats, he's a very powerful governor. He's a Democrat governor, and they want that in there. Plus, it's New York, man.
Yeah, but that's Newsom, and they want Newsom out. They're going to want Cuomo out. It's just going to pull him down.
I think what's happening up here in Canada is that Trudeau's behaving himself. He's in pre-election mode. He's going across the country, and so he's just putting the carrot out there for people, thinking that he's a good guy. We'll all vote him back in. I don't know how he got in at all anyways, both times before.
I think we're starting to see pushback against the Me Too movement because a lot of people say, hey, if you proposition a girl, that's not sexual harassment. No. It's one thing if you're grabbing at somebody and doing that, which apparently he tried to kiss a girl or whatever, but he's like, that's what we do back in the day. And, he's right. That's males from that time period. So, it really, but how far do you go when it comes to sexual harassment?
That excuse when it suits your purpose. I mean, if you're going to evolve with time and you're going to be a leader or so, a governor, you're not completely ignorant to the fact that maybe that was something you did once ago, long time ago, but no, that's not acceptable.
See, but women like him, and he's very charismatic. So then you have women who throw.
Women like him.
I don't know why either. He's charismatic, though, which you have to be charismatic to be a leader. Bill Clinton was very charismatic. I mean, even Obama was charismatic. So, they have a certain quality that attracts people to them, and we don't know what appetite Clinton had.
Cuomo, I would agree with you, but
36 women said that Clinton raped them, raped and molested them, and he became president, and he was there for a while. I mean, come on. But now there's a lot of pushback in the Me Too stuff because Trump is gone. So now things can go back to normal again, I guess. And you see that AOC, she's like shocked every day. She thought she had some power, I guess. And now she's like, no one likes me anymore.
I just saw her leaked interview from with I think NBC, and it was what's his name there that does all the my brain's not working. It's been a long day. Guy that does all the whistleblowing.
Was it Geraldo?
What's that?
No, Geraldo's on Fox.
No, it's not Geraldo, and it's not Fox. I'll find it in my email here.
I like Geraldo. I gotta say, I like Geraldo. Man.
And I seen this interview, and if you see this, you'd be laughing. Like it's with AOC, and oh my God, I was hiding in my bathroom, and I thought I was gonna be raped. With the going on and on about the Capitol, and like apparently she was nowhere near where she was saying she was, and you have to see this interview. It's quite the interview. Quite the interview. So I hear you when you say she's shocked that people don't like her anymore. I don't think they ever did.
Right. Well, they did because she was going after Trump, right? I mean, they just use people. True. The Democrats use people, I was talking to my sister the other day about Bernie, and I said, I was shocked when Bernie went to that convention and he didn't come out against Hillary and say, I want a recount right now, and I want to count the delegates right there in front of their faces, make them vote. When he came out and he supported Hillary, it's almost like someone had a gun to his head. You saw his face and all that. I mean, but I was shocked, for the person that he said he was anyway. Which I never thought he was much. I'm in Ithaca, where you have guys like that. You have Cornell people from the hippies back in the 60s who caused all the issues, and that's they live in that era. But they're useless. They're all the communists. These are communist socialists, communist/socialists. Even though it's two different things, but that's their mission, right?
All I heard, and you can't prove it, but all I heard in some of the stuff I read was Bernie had some skeletons in his closet that they threatened to pull out.
So his wife, right? Because she got into that loan situation with that bank and then defaulted, and she knew she wasn't going to have the money. There was a whole thing with the Catholic Church, which is actually kind of funny that she screwed them out of money. How many people could say that?
Not many.
Not many at all, and they still retain the property,
but that's what I heard, and it's sad too because I think he would have given.
It was a school that she was the director of, right? And the school went under, and they kept the property on the water, which her daughter took over with some woodworking shop, school type of thing. So, beautiful Lake Champlain property.
Keep it in the family.
Yep. No difference between those guys. They just don't steal on the bigger level.
You know
like
what
the
it is? So think about it. If anybody had to really, any of us, and no, we're not criminals or anything, but you know what? Your whole public life out there in front. Like if you sign up to be a politician, man, you sign your life away pretty well, right? They'll find even probably a hangnail you had back in second grade, or you know what I'm saying. But that's how deep they dig.
That's why you got to wear it all on your sleeve when you come out, like Jimmy Swaggart when he got caught with those hookers. You know what I mean? And he thought people thought he was going to lose his flock. What did he do? He went out there, was like, I have sinned and I was tempted. And you have to give me more money because I need to fight the devil. And they did.
Don't you find, though, anybody that is in the public eye that decries another group or another bunch of individuals, those that scream the loudest are usually the ones that get caught doing what they've been screaming about.
That's why they do it. You know what I mean? That's why they do it, because they know it's gaslighting, isn't it? Isn't that?
I know, but like when you get caught, like I said, when you put your name out there, somebody's going to find it somewhere, especially at the internet. And you only fall twice as hard when you've been coming after the people that you're doing the same thing doing. It's true.
It's mind-boggling, but that's the way you got to play your life, and you keep people jumping like that. You keep them crisp.
I don't know. I just never understood that. Now when somebody's screaming that loud, no matter what group they're screaming about, you pretty well expect within the next, probably a couple of years that something's going to come out that they were doing the same thing.
When I was on cable in Ithaca, I had done a show about George Bush Jr. and how much I hated him, and going into Iraq, it was like that whole thing. I didn't have anything nice to say. In fact, I was pretty wicked. So this woman actually calls and gets my number, calls my home phone, leaves a message. She's like, I want you to apologize for what he said about Mr. Bush and Mr. Cheney, And then she's like, I'll be watching the next show. So I answered the phone and I'm like, I'm the manager here, what's going on? She didn't know she's talking to me. That man
talking to you.
Right. Because he's like, that man was horrible to our president. I'll make sure he apologizes to you on the very next show. She's like, I'll be watching. So I went on the air and I went to this whole thing and I even played her message on the air from the answering machine. God. And I said, I have an apology to make. I said, I'm sorry you're an asshole. I'm sorry. I'm sorry you don't understand anything and what a cretin George Bush is. Oh, man. And she just went ape crap. After that, she that's how you have to do it, though. So don't blame me. Don't be a hater. Don't blame me for the way God made me.
I think there's just a point where you have to agree to disagree. Sometimes you're not going to agree.
Oh, yeah. Right.
Part of it. You got to pull together.
We all have our own opinions.
There's your favorite guy saying, Delta variant surges, Fauci and Walski say vaccines, not masks, are the solution.
I think Fauci should open up a cannoli shop, man, and get out of the med business.
I wouldn't be buying cannoli.
I wouldn't eat his cannoli either. I don't want Fauci's cannoli.
I would not be buying cannolis from him.
He can go to D.C. and open up his cannoli shop, man.
It'd probably be laced with Ebola and everything else in there.
I'm going to go to Prague and open up a champagne bar. What do you think? and change my name to Mango. I'll just know my one name, Mango.
No, you remind me of what was it, Chris Kattan from SNL when he played Mango.
There was this Italian singer named Mango, and this woman used to give me all of his CDs. She's like, "You'll love it," I'm like,
guy.
I'm like, I'm more into like AC/DC or Led Zeppelin, not Mango.
What am I wearing?
I listened to it. I listened to it, but it wasn't, it wasn't my taste.
I'm gonna have an open mind.
Plus, it was in Italian, which was lost on me.
You gotta try it once. Everything I say, you gotta try once.
I know all the Italian curse words. That's pretty much it.
Okay, Zach says I'd probably get food poisoning from eating a Fauci cannoli.
Yeah. We don't want a Fauci's cannoli. Or his biscotti.
He said, Zach wants to be your business partner, Mike. He says, you can call me Pineapple. You can be Mango and he can be Pineapple.
So if you have the Delta variant, what does Zach say? What's the best whiskey and what's the best cigar? If you're suffering with Delta,
He'll probably tell you. You know, he always does.
if you're suffering, I want to hear.
Yeah.
I like these cognac dipped cigars there, and they only make a certain amount, and I almost never buy them because they're so expensive. But like, there's this place called Thompson's, which is down, I guess they have plantations all over South America, Central, but they use Cuban seeds for the tobacco, which is kind of interesting, and they go the old ways, but they're nice cigars, and they actually have good deals on some stuff.
Zach's a good guy to talk cigars with. He's pretty knowledgeable.
Yeah,
I'll tell you.
but whiskey too. Whiskey and cigars hand in hand, man. Not Crown Royal. Every time I see those commercials, they're geared towards the ghetto, because all the commercials are like these ghetto people drinking Crown Royal. Like,
not in Canada with the
not in Canada.
Booze. No.
But I mean, we got some good bourbon here. And look at whiskey. Irish whiskey is the best. I think it's the best, and not bad priced. Like Redbreast. I love Redbreast 12 or 16. Yeah, Redbreast is so nice. If I have it, I never have it because it goes. The bottles that stay are the stuff that you don't drink. Think about it,
Yeah.
But also I got really into cask strength, which is around like 120 proof in that area. 60% alcohol. So it's a whole different bite. Everything's different about it.
That's okay. So Zach's got his suggestion for you. He says, well, if I have the Delta variant, which I hope I never use, he said, in brackets, he said, I would make a pair like it's my last. I would have Cohiba, Pura Made's extra. I hope I said that right, Zach. And then he said with some Havana Q Club rum.
There you go. I'll go for that. A little bit of weed in there.
Oh, he said, which I hope I never get. He put the correct.
Asking for a friend. Well, you guys legalize weed. You think they legalize weed in Canada just to kind of pacify people for the COVID thing?
That's how no, honestly, to be honest with you, I called it, Justin Trudeau came out of nowhere and ran. And I made a bet with Del. I said, watch, he'll get in because he's promising to legalize weed. And Del said, no, he's not. And he did get in. I think that's how he got in.
Cuomo legalized it, and the only reason why he did it, I think, was because he was in so much trouble, because he was so dead against legalizing it.
So you got to give the people a little bit of sugar with the lemons.
Yeah. Ooh.
That's true.
Yeah, rum. I haven't had some good rum in a long time. Like a good pina colada. Like a homemade. Like not from some crappy bar.
I bought a mix here to take out to the cabin, but I didn't go because I was on Jeffrey's show.
You just need some coconut cream. You need some pineapple juice, man, and some really good rum. But I love Bacardi. Bacardi's like the best to me. And there's better out there, but I mean, it's good stuff.
I'm a vodka drinker.
Anyway, we got to move on. We got to get some news going. We got to talk about
booze.
No, we ain't talking about
Joe,
booze. We are out doing something. That's why y'all got away with that. But
we're already on to booze and cigars. Let's talk about food now.
We're going to talk about governance because that's what people want to hear about. So
you guys hungry? I'm hungry, man.
So
I got some nice mashed potatoes.
Your governor is gone. He's shit. He's out of town. He's going to be gone.
Who, Cuomo?
Yeah, he's gone. He's going to be out.
Cuomo, they should call him Everlast because he's not going anywhere.
Let's put it this way: he's not Donald Trump. He's not going to last through 7 investigations.
If you think he's going anywhere, his nipple rings are rusted
he's not
over,
He's not getting reelected. That's all there is to it. His polling numbers are 22%. Ain't no way he's getting reelected with that. So
Cuomo?
He might as well step down. Yeah.
But he's going to be there for like another 2 years.
Well, no, not if he gets impeached. He's not, and they want him impeached.
They won't do that.
Oh yeah, they will because
they impeached Trump twice. He didn't go anywhere.
They want him impeached, and if the cop actually believes this woman that said he groped him, they're going to arrest him and put his ass in jail. He can be arrested as governor. Yeah, he can be arrested again. He wouldn't be the first governor arrested either. So they don't have a choice. So with the 3 women that said he actually touched them and did sexual overtures, they've got to investigate that. The state investigators already said they think it's true. So we're going to see where impeachment goes next. The problem for Cuomo is
prosecuted, Joe.
He's not, but Cuomo is an egomaniac, and he's made enemies just like Fat Krispy Kreme did. That's why Krispy's out now, because he made enemies.
You know how corrupt he is? When he was attorney general for New York State, if he came after you, you're a Wall Street guy or one of these people. If you gave him a $50,000 campaign donation, you could sit down and negotiate and talk with him. That's bribery, plain and simple. But they said if you want to sit down with Cuomo, you had to give him 50,000 at least or more, and then you see these guys, their charges go away. So that's what kind of person he is, and he's also the kind of person who put sick people with old people, and they died. We had the most deaths in the United States in New York. And then they lied about the deaths, and then he told people to lie and threatened them.
Yeah, he's in trouble. So
that's to me, that's way worse than
60% of New York.
That's bad enough, but damn, killing people.
60% of your state wants him gone. 44% of your state believes unequivocally that he did this. He can't get over those numbers unless something drastically does something great, makes everybody love him again. He's not going to be governor next time around.
There's a lot.
He's going to be hard. He's going to be hard.
He's going to get back in. And the sad part is we have no term length. His father was in power for 28 years.
He did a terrible job. I remember Cuomo. He was terrible, man.
63% of New Yorker voters want Cuomo to resign immediately and quickly. So with that
right now, today with the headlines, give that a month from now.
But it doesn't matter.
From now, it'll be 30%.
It doesn't matter because at 63%, these investigations have to be launched, or the state's going to be in trouble.
They can impeach him, or they can vote for a recall in November.
Well,
which won't happen. It won't happen.
And it's not even that. It's more than that. You've got 3 of them that the real police are looking into. The state troopers and the FBI are looking into. So. Everybody already says they think it happened to these 3 women. Just the mass people in New York, they really think these happened.
So why didn't Bill Clinton get kicked out of office after all these people came out and said
Bill Clinton was president?
Raped them and all
and
that?
No, there's rules against that with president.
Before he was president, even
nobody
when he was governor.
When
he was governor of Arkansas, they came out against
nobody believed. No,
remember
actually,
Whitewater? Remember Whitewater?
That was Hillary. No,
that was Bill. Bill was the
Hillary.
one.
Hillary was
Bill was the one taking campaign donations from Tyson Foods, and they were polluting 43 out of the major rivers in Arkansas.
Hillary was doing it. Hillary was running all of it. Bill wasn't.
If you think there's any difference between the two, you're
not. There is. When it comes to the justice system,
they're a partnership, man. They're a partnership in crime.
When it comes to the justice system, only the one who signed the papers are in trouble, not the other one. Doesn't matter what he knew. They don't care. All they cared about, and she got away with it anyway.
How many people died because of Whitewater? They were finding bodies, Ed Meese and people like that. They were finding bodies everywhere, man. So that's the Clintons.
But this is different. He's a governor. He's not a president. Bill was running for president, and the Dems weren't going to take any bullshit. They were going to protect him no matter what, and that's what they did. Cuomo has lost the Dems protection
today.
Pelosi asked him for him to step down. Harris asked him to step down.
They did that the last time.
Nobody ever asked Bill not to run. That's what I'm saying. That's the difference. None of the bigwigs came out against.
Look who he ran against.
But the bigwigs are coming out against Cuomo. He says his career's over with. He might as well become a CEO somewhere. He's out of politics at least for a while, unless he gets prosecuted, and then he's out for good. And if
he could be a CNN anchor like his brother.
There you go. Hey, he could do it from his jail cell.
You see, his brother's not allowed to talk about anything to do.
I saw that. Yes.
Is that amazing for a media channel to say?
Yeah, because they don't want to talk about
we're blocking out the news because you're related to the guy.
Yeah, well, I can understand that. It's conflict of interest, but so he was going to because he was doing just fluff pieces with his brother, and they were talking about these women and how they were coming on to Cuomo and stuff. So I mean, if Cuomo can prove that these women made the move first, then he's not in any trouble. Or they suggested that if he can prove, but I don't think he's going to have that chance. Really, what's looking at right now. So when I heard yesterday, they said they had enough votes in the Senate to impeach him. They could make 2/3 of the Senate.
I believe it when I see
New York. So
being a New Yorker, a lifetime New Yorker, I believe it when I see it, man.
What's going to really happen is he's going to, because they're not going to, unless they get a hardcore impeachment, because both parties have to, both sides have to impeach him. If only one does, then he'll serve out his 2 years, and unless he goes to jail, he'll serve out his 2 years, and he won't be governor again.
He'll probably serve from jail, knowing him.
But for some reason, the one
he's
chick
going to go to jail for kissing somebody.
Yeah, but for
they're not saying he raped
one
anybody.
Chick, for the one chick, even CNN and NBC believed her, so he's done. You've got the Democratic Party,
but they're not saying he raped anybody.
They said he pushed her up against the wall and slid his hand up and groped her. that you can go to prison for that. That's
Was he
5 to 10 years. He's got to prove that it didn't happen.
In a court
of
law,
it's worse. She don't have to. She already took a polygraph and passed it. He'll have to do it or he's done.
Well, he was saying Kavanaugh should take a lie detector test, right? When they blamed that idiot Ford blamed Kavanaugh for rape. Meanwhile, she completely lied even after after the hearings. Remember what she said? She said, "Well, even if it didn't happen, he shouldn't have been, on the Supreme Court anyway."
Even if it didn't happen,
right? She said, even if it didn't happen,
is the one. So this. The accuser is the one that has to take the polygraph.
She said she'd be happy to lie to keep them all off of there, get the Republicans out.
She actually took a polygraph the first time and passed it because they asked her 3 questions. But when the guy came and asked her what really went on, she failed it. That's why they didn't want to talk about the polygraph.
But she didn't remember who was there.
This woman passed the polygraph big time. And if he's not going to take one, he's already lost. Because it's going to be a jury trial. And New Yorkers are funny people, man. If she's going to take it and he's not, he's guilty in their eyes. You can see by the polling numbers, he's guilty. They don't care if he's not or if he is or he's not. They say he's guilty. And when you start getting 63, 65, 67, and the more stuff that comes out, the more guilty he's going to be. This
as those emergency use powers come in, when the Delta variant swarms, Cuomo is going to just take the center stage. He wrote a book about what a great job he did during the pandemic.
Man, that's what got all this started on his ass. He shouldn't have never done that.
A freaking book.
He should have shut up. If he'd have shut up and kept his mouth shut about a lot of things, these women wouldn't have came out. But
did he got a Pulitzer Prize? I mean, they gave him all kinds of accolades for what? For killing tens of thousands of old people.
And that's
it was a mandate that those nursing homes took.
And ladies and gentlemen, in case you didn't know this, the FBI is looking into the deaths into the old folks' homes.
Yeah.
And what happened is some really wealthy families, much wealthier than Cuomo, got involved and said, hey, my mom died because of him. My grandma died. We want something done. Good. And these are big donors to the Democratic Party, so they're going to look into it now. And
he
now
denies everything.
And now that this is on top of his head, they might just go ahead and prosecute him for it. They're going to need a scapegoat. So
I watched those daily meetings where he said they can refuse the sick person, right? But yet the mandate was they had to take them, and if they refuse, they could lose their license. Yeah. So if you're the old folks home, what are you going to do? You got to take them in. You have no choice. And there was no isolation either. So they took in sick people plus the workers that came in with COVID, but they took in ill people, and then look what happened.
So right? So now they're saying he's not Donald Trump. He's much more vulnerable than Trump was. This shit would have just washed off at Trump. This is the New York Times talking about this. Look, when your own New York Times start writing against you, Cuomo, you're in trouble.
Trump said he could kill someone and get away with it. Cuomo killed tens of thousands of people and got away with it.
I don't think he's going to get away with it. It doesn't look like he's going to.
I don't know.
It looks like they're getting into this.
They're focused on him kissing girls.
You see, you're not looking at this the right way.
There's other stuff too.
Yeah, but this is going to go on. You got to think about this. Joe's a complete disaster. Harris is a complete disaster. There's all this border shit, putting people around the country. The Democrats need something to deflect away from this. And Newsom and Cuomo will eat up the news stories, and you'll be more interested in this than you will be in the other stuff.
Harris is your next president, man.
No, she ain't the next president.
I'll be in Prague with my champagne.
She can't even get a 2% poll rate to be president.
Pineapple.
Oh, wait. Are we on Harris? Listen.
I bet if I sell pineapple there, I'd be pretty popular in Prague.
Y'all missed it. So Harris,
I'm the mango man,
got together with all of her people, and they got together and said how all this stuff wasn't true, and all this was a lie. And she did a great job at the border, and she does a great job running her office. And they're getting together to see how they can put this in the news to show it.
Remember AOC at the border crying, falling apart, and then she was just looking into some empty parking lot. There was a couple cop cars. She wasn't even seeing anybody, and she said, "There, oh my God!" Meanwhile, how many people have suffered in Queens and the Bronx? How many people have food
and
emergencies going on?
They interviewed people from the Bronx because she says she's there all the time. She's there, and they're all going, "We've never seen her."
Yeah, they've never seen her.
Never.
She got some nice penthouse in DC, Well, her boyfriend's really wealthy, and he's the guy that kind of put her forward, so he's got the millions, but that's just how it works, right? Sad. But yeah, there's people in the Bronx that need the help. I've been there. I've seen it. They need the help, and Queens. So
at one point, Quinnipiac and Rasputin says that Cuomo's efficiency rating was 74, 73, and 71%. Now it's below 50. It's in the mid.
For grabbing girls?
No, for his job.
Oh,
So he's screwed, buddy. When you drop from 73% to
I thought he was
43%,
an
you're
efficient
done.
molester.
Yeah, he might be, but he's done. I'll put money on that he won't be your next governor.
That'll be his next book.
It's yeah, Jackie. I put
The
money on it.
grab.
He ain't gonna be. Newsom's the one I'm more interested in. Cuomo put the noose around his own neck. That's his problem. Newsom was just doing his job. Now he's got the noose around his neck. So Newsom's numbers, only 40% given approval rating. Right now it's 50-50 want him removed
People
from
are leaving
office.
California. Plus, there's that major fire there, the biggest one they ever had.
You can't win governor back at 50-50. And it's looking like they're going to get through the removal process. But in case you didn't know this, even if they remove him, he can run again.
But California, you have other people who are worthy who run. New York, you don't. There really is no equal Republican against Cuomo. I mean, there are no names, right? Pataki was the last Republican.
So Washington Times, Washington Post, New York Times, every major paper in the country has the same thing. 63 to 70% of all voters in New York want Cuomo to resign or be impeached. So they're going to go after him. They don't have a choice. With that many people on their ass.
I like him. He makes me look good. You know what I mean? I think that I can do a lot worse, and he still makes me look good.
Well, if he could get it to 50-50.
If I look better than a governor, I'm doing pretty good.
If he can get it down to 50-50, he might be able to hold on his job.
I don't grab girls. I have a huge complex, man. They need to grab me. And they don't. so there.
Especially about times I hated him.
But Cuomo, I don't know, man. I don't like him and his whole family, so that's where I'm at.
Let's see what this one says.
Just a bunch of arrogant rich bastards. You know what got me during the pandemic? I was in a hotel, eating fast food and doing that, and Cuomo's on there talking about the mansion and making the big steaming meatballs and the family dinner every Sunday and all that. There's people who were quarantining in little tiny spaces that had nothing, and this guy was just like, to me, he was just like him and his brother, like the antics and the bragging. It didn't make you feel like he gave a crap about the normal
Nancy
regular.
Pelosi at the beginning of this all talking about her 15 different kinds of ice cream in her freezer.
Her Talenti ice cream, getting her hair done.
That hurt her too. It didn't hurt her enough to keep her from getting reelected, I see. And wait, she said she was stepping down. I hear she's going to run again.
Oh, dear God.
And she'll win because there's nothing in San Francisco. She's got too much money.
JFK. I saw a picture of her cozying up to him back in the early 60s.
Right, she was horny for him. You saw that picture. She was looking at him like, hey. And he was looking at her like, hey.
Well, according to this, she has a chance of being your next president if she runs.
I wouldn't doubt if they were together,
Dear God, no.
I don't know who's going to vote for her. See, people ask me all the time, well, you want to get rid of Biden? I said no, because
she doesn't want to be president. She's more powerful in the position that she has now.
True.
No, she's not. It's not even.
Oh, my God.
Presidents have way more power.
She doesn't have to perform like the president, and she
could just kind of sit back.
She could just sit back and kind of, just smash the gavel.
Yeah, but why do you think she hated Trump so much? Because every time she'd do something, Trump would say, veto.
She didn't hate him. They loved him because they made more donations with Trump in there than they ever did. Now their donations are way down because people don't think there's any kind of threat.
Their polling numbers have been down for years, even when Trump was in there.
No, I'm not polling. I'm talking about money, donations.
Oh, no, polling numbers reflect money.
Even regular old people on the street were giving them hundreds of dollars that they didn't have to get rid of Trump. It was a thing, man.
Well, they can only a person can only give so much money, and businesses can only give so much money too. That's actually federal law.
There's so many different ways you can donate, though.
Yeah, but so many different ways that you can't use it for.
You don't have to support a president. You can support any candidate or the DNC, the DNC itself. But the DNC was bankrupt when Hillary was running, and she took it over with her money, and that's how she got control of all those delegates. So, and they never called her out. I mean, that information's out there freely. We know this. It's not made up.
Nobody messes with the Hillary.
And nobody ever.
Not if you want to stay alive.
Remember when people say Comey's going to jail? Oh, no, he's not. Hillary going to jail? No, she's not.
No, nobody thought. No, we didn't think Hillary was going to jail.
Epstein went to jail and he hung himself from 4 feet in the air, and he's 6'2".
We knew he was going to jail. Though. They have look. This is what this is about, and this always is what this is about. Epstein was a fall guy to keep Clinton from going to jail.
They put him in his cell with a killer cop. He looked like The Rock, bigger than The Rock. He had that big bald head. The guy strangled 4 criminals, and then they put him in jail for that. He was in the cell with that guy, and they moved that guy out at 11:30 at night. And then nobody went in there to see what happened. So obviously, that cop, if he's into choking people,
I don't know. His family or somebody in his family asked for the body. They want to have it investigated by a different person.
Isn't it burnt or the bottom of a river or
No,
whatever?
I don't think they did. Bro. They didn't, I don't think they could. I think because it was a family member, they couldn't do
They
it.
shot it into space.
They, well, they did that's how they hit what's his name, Al Qaeda's leader.
Do you think he's
Oh
even
yeah,
dead?
we
Do
killed
you
him.
think he's even dead? I mean, do you think
Epstein, yeah, I think he's dead. I think
really?
he's dead. I think because
I
he
don't
was a
know.
risk. No, he was a risk. When Bill's name showed up on that flight log 27 times, he became a risk. Yeah, Hillary got rid of him. Like, no. You're not taking my husband and me down now. You can forget that crap. That's not going to happen.
He has so many connections, though. I don't know, man.
Yeah, that's why he got killed, because he had so many connections.
So then why didn't they come out with all the evidence after the FBI went into his mansions, palaces, all these things? They got video, they got audio, they got pictures. And all
where
these
it wasn't. You know where the evidence was supposedly at?
So where's everything? Where is everything?
Because they said
he hangs himself.
No.
That morning, the judge says, okay, case dismissed, bye.
But you haven't been paying attention.
I've been paying attention.
No, where they said the evidence was in a condo in Florida where they couldn't get a warrant because the California government wouldn't issue a warrant for them. They couldn't get it from the state troopers. And guess what happened to those?
They blew it up.
Yes, it did. It went to dust. Epstein had a condo in. So did McAfee, by the way. They both had condos in the building that came down.
So what happened to his dead man switch? He even had a tattoo that said "swatched" on his arm.
Yeah, they assassinated him. He died assassination style. That's just what happened. He either threatened somebody or ran his mouth about
switch that was supposed to be.
More than likely, what happened was he was running out of money, and he went to one of them and said, "Hey, I need some money or else." And they said, "Really, or else? Watch what's going to happen to you now." And or else got him killed. Because he was just like McAfee, he was having money issues, and both of them ended up dead the same way.
I find it kind of weird, though, that McAfee published the address to that building that was blown up, saying all his evidence was in there. Nobody in their right mind is going to be putting that address where all your evidence is located.
My secret evidence is
here. Here, I'm going to put this over here.
But this isn't so much, to be honest.
Antivirus software, one of the first ones. But I'm going to need you guys right to all my evidence.
But the worst part about all of this is no one ever took it serious. Nobody really cares. All of this stuff happens, and they just play it off like, oh, well, sorry, guys.
Take a chance just in case he was using reverse psychology on them. So they said, we'll blow it up just in case.
A lot of people died in that building. It was 120 or 140. A lot of people died in that building.
I know.
And two, they still have not came up with a reason why it collapsed the way it did. So they're still and you know what? It looked a whole lot like the way the Twin Towers came down.
I sent both you boys that video because I happened to be up when that guy that was on listening to the police scanner. I think he was on before it's news, and he was streaming it. And I sent it to both you guys. It was about 10 minutes after it happened.
Jeffrey, actually, we're getting ready to close out because it's 11 after 6. But
I was just asking you.
Captain's on. We're going to be leaving in just a few minutes. Remember, people. So we didn't get to Santos tonight. Sandy Toes, as I like to call him. Right now, he is probably the candidate for the next governor. I mean, the next president of the United States. He's polling above everybody. Mm-hmm. And when you put him and Trump together, they're polling at like 68%. So that they will win. See, for the thing of it is Santos, for some reason, pulls Democratic voters. They like him for some reason. The people down there in Miami voted for him unwillingly. I mean, they just voted for him, which Dade County is almost all Democrats, and he pulled the whole county. He pulled all the Democratic counties in Florida. And his polling numbers in the 70% range, which means the Dems like him. So the Dems are going to stand up for him as they think he did the right thing with their families. And that's the bitch part. One of the things that's going to hurt him is because he took care of the old people first. Yeah. And he put everybody else back. He said, we're going to take care of the old people first. We're going to make sure they're protected. We're going to make sure they get the shots before anybody does. Well, guess what? A lot of rich Democrats have their parents living in condos down in Florida. So they're going to take this guy's side on this, and they're going to stay there. So if his polling numbers stay like this for another year or two, he will be the next president, or he'll be vice president under Trump, and then he'll get to serve 4 years under Trump. Trump will step down. He'll get 8 more years, just like when Reagan took over. Reagan got 8 years, and then Bush got 4 years, 12 years of Republicans, and they control the House and the Senate the majority of that time. There's no doubt they're going to take the House and the Senate this year. If for some reason, you can take this to the bank. If the Republicans don't take the House and Senate this year, there was cheating because they're already getting 11 votes. So 11 votes already gives them the majority in the House. So Nancy Pelosi has already lost the House before the voting even starts. Because they lost 11 votes because of New York and California move-outs. They both got votes taken away from them, and those were given to the Republicans. So that's already 11 seats they have. I think they were only down 9, or 8. So they've already got the House back, and I think they got one was the Senate, which gives them the Senate back. And majority, and more than likely, and this is according to the Democrats, because they had a strategy setting that one of their people put online, cracks me up, about how they want to try to get these seats, because right now it looks like in 2022 that the Republicans are going to win big. So they're trying to figure out, they've been polling in vulnerable areas where they got 6 or 7 senators that are vulnerable and about 20 Democrats that are vulnerable in the House. So they've been polling these areas, and they're losing. And they're also losing people that they thought they were going to keep, including Republican allies. So more than likely, it's traditional usually for the ruling party to lose the House in the first 2 years. It's not that uncommon. I think it happens every time. It happened to Obama. It happened to Bush. It happened to Reagan. It happened to almost every president. You tend to lose it because if you're not doing what you said, and Biden's obviously, I don't see any transparency in Biden's at all. He's worse than Trump about keeping secrets, and he's not united anybody. He's made it worse. And as far as anybody's concerned now, he's made COVID worse. Even the media, CNN and NBC are having such a hard time not talking about it because this is great news for them, but they can't go after Biden. So it's making it hard.
The numbers are so far down because Trump is gone. That's why people watch.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, because they watch him because we hated Trump.
Yep.
But more and more leaders in this country and around the world are saying we misjudged Trump. So I don't know what's coming out. And then I seen a poll today taken by 5 million people on the East Coast, and they got Trump. They said they would vote for Trump 78%. So Biden's his GDP is like Obama's. It's 1.2.
If Trump runs again.
Yeah, I don't know if he's going to run again. A lot of people think he is. I think if he thinks DeSantis can win, he might just let him run.
I don't think Melania would go through that again.
I don't know how it's going to go. And then again, he's polling big, and that's another thing that the voters people brought up, the voter commission brought up. He said they're confused how Trump can pull these big rallies. Biden's president, he still can't pull these big rallies, and even before he was president, he couldn't pull big rallies. Same thing that happened to Hillary happened to Biden, but somehow he managed to pull an extra 4 million votes.
No passion.
With the best part is Trump pulled higher in Hispanics and in blacks than any president prior to him. But anyway, we got to get because Kathy's going to be looking for us, guys. You can find most of these facts online. Everything we talked about tonight.
Sucker rice.
Huh. Looking at you.